When I opened my eyes, I was back at my wedding. My maid of honor stood on stage, mic in hand, wearing a sly smirk. "I am so happy for her," she announced. Though just last month, she was in the Aben Clinic VIP ward, I honestly thought she would never marry. The hall erupted in whispers. Everyone stared at me. She covered her mouth, pretending innocence. "Oh, I am just joking. Do not read into it. In my past life, those words destroyed me. I had tried to explain it. Was only cyst removal, but she laughed it off. Sure, and that needed a man's signature. Just a joke. Do not be so sensitive. My furious fiancé then called off the wedding, and I later took my own life. Now I took a deep breath. Squeezed my already angry fiancé's arm, picked up a mic, and held it toward her lips. "Do not stop," I said softly. "Go on." I wanted to see if her jokes could save her. Once I revealed the truth and let everyone see her malice, the microphone was thrust right up to Lynn's lips. She probably hadn't expected me, usually so gentle and timid, to confront her head-on in front of hundreds of wedding guests. She recoiled her neck, pulling back, putting on a show of being a startled, fragile little thing. "Oh, Aubrey, what are you doing? You scared the living daylights out of me shouting like that. I already told you I am just a straight shooter. No filter, just love a good laugh. It is a happy day. Why are you taking it so seriously?" I clutched the microphone, unyielding. "If it is a joke, let's see it through." My voice cut through the air cold and hard, hitting every guest's ears. "After everything you saw and heard at the Euban Clinic, word for word, let's give everyone a good chuckle." A flicker of wild glee sparked in Lynn's eyes. She thought I was bluffing. "Aubrey, don't push me. Everyone's watching. I really didn't mean to bring up that old guy with a big belly." She suddenly raised her voice, clearly wanting everyone to hear. "I swear I absolutely did not see that old man not only pay your surgery fees, but also sign on the family member line." After she finished, she clapped her hand over her mouth again, eyes wide, feigning extreme regret. "Oops, oops, oops, my big mouth, Joey, Mrs. Davies, please don't believe it. That old man was definitely Aubrey's distant relative. Please don't jump to conclusions." The entire hall fell into a deathly silence. 3 seconds later, the reception hall filled with hundreds of people erupted. The buzzing noise threatened to lift the roof off. Do we even need to guess? He obviously messed around behind her fiancé back, got pregnant, and went for an abortion. She looks so pure and innocent, but turns out she is trash. The Davies family's reputation is completely ruined. Joey, my fiancé, whom I just pushed away, now charged forward like a raging lion. "Aubrey, what the hell is going on?" His eyes were bloodshot, fixed on me at the head table. Mrs. Davies, always so poised, instantly turned crimson with rage. Back, she slammed her hand down on the marble table, making wine glasses topple. "Aubrey, our Davies family comes from a respectable background. We will never marry a shameless hussy. If you don't explain yourself today, this wedding is off." I watched their frantic antics, not a hint of panic in me. I turned to the furious Joey and asked, my voice utterly calm. "Joey, she lying just opened her mouth, said a few jokes. And do you believe her?" Watching Lynn's gloating expression, I scoffed internally. The quicker he believes her now, the harder he'll try to throttle her later. Joey froze, a flicker of struggle in his eyes. But just then, Lynn suddenly clapped her thigh and burst into unrestrained laughter. "Oh, Aubrey, you are really good at twisting things around. If you haven't done anything wrong, why are you forcing Joey to take a stance?" Lynn in her heels strutted over to me, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Do you dare say you didn't go to the open clinic on the 15th of last month for surgery? If you swear you didn't go, I, Lynn, will count you right here and now." The gaze of everyone in the room felt like countless knives, all aimed at me. The last trace of struggle in Joey's eyes vanished, placed by extreme anger and humiliation. "Aubrey, answer Lynn's question." Joey pointed at my nose, his voice trembling. "On the 15th of last month, did you or did you not go to the VIP section of the City General Hospital's open deep-in department?" I looked at him, My voice is calm as still water. I did. The entire hall erupted again. My parents down below were frantic. My mother eyes. Reed tried to rush forward, but was held back by several malicious relatives. Aubrey went for an ovarian cyst removal. It is not what you are. Thinking, my mother cried out in despair. Hearing that, Lynn laughed even more wildly. She clutched her stomach, shaking with laughter, tears almost streaming down her face. Right, Mrs. Davies is right. It was for an ovarian cyst removal. She turned to the guests, her face innocent yet triumphant. But Mrs. Davies, does removing a cyst require an irrelevant old man's signature? I get it. This is, Davies rushed forward like a mad woman. You shameless hussy. You still have the nerve to bring up an ovarian cyst. She pointed at me, screaming profanities. Do you really think our Davies family takes in trash? Joey completely lost it. He ripped off the groom's boot in the air from his chest and violently flung it at my face. Aubrey, you always acted so pure, but behind my back, you were messing around with an old man. You've disappointed me. So much, I stared coldly at the bower on the ground, my last shred of hope gone. Go ahead and believe her lies. The real show is yet to come. The evidence is clear. You even admitted you went to the abandoned. What more do you have to say? I, Joey Davies, would rather stay single my whole life than marry a hussy like you. Fine. I spat out the word decisively and pulled off my veil. Since your Davies family values these jokes so much than this wedding, I am calling it off. Mrs. Davies immediately put her hands on her hips. Then it is off. Return the $500,000 dowry to me exactly as it was given and the cost of today's banquet. Didn't even blink. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and right in front of everyone, transferred the $500,000 back to Joey's account. The money is returned from now on. You go your way, I'll go mine. I turned to leave the stage, but Lynn grabbed my arm, yelling loudly, Aubrey, how can you just leave like that? If you walk away. Now it is like admitting guilt, isn't it? I suddenly turned to another bridesmaid. Mia, you were interning at the City General Hospital last month. Tell everyone, did you see it too? Looking for a witness, huh? I wanted to see how this rock she brought to crush me would end up crushing her own foot. Mia suddenly called out, was startled. She was Joey's distant cousin, interning as a nurse at the city. General Lynn dragged her out of the crowd and pushed her to the microphone. Mia, you're always the most honest one. Tell your cousin the truth. Lynn's eyes gleamed with excitement. Did you personally see Aubrey wearing her khaki trench coat, hat, and mask, being escorted into the VIP operating room by a fat man that day? Mia stammered, her gaze flickering. Hundreds of people stared intently at her. I was indeed on duty at the reception desk that day. Mia swallowed hard, not daring to meet my eyes. I did see someone whose build was very similar to Auber's with a very fat man beside her. The statement undoubtedly hammered the final nail into my coffin. Entire hall completely exploded. The bride's maid really wasn't lying. She might have a loose tongue, but she was telling the truth. The bride has some nerve. Why doesn't she just scram? Mrs. Davies, trembling with rage, pointed at me. What do you have to say now? Even Armia saw it, you harlot. Joey, shaking with fury, lunged forward, raising his hand to slap me, but ultimately brought it down with a vicious snarl. Aubrey, I must have been blind to ever fall for you. Lynn's lips were practically stretched to her ears with glee, let out a fake sigh and patted Joey's shoulder. Joey, don't be too sad. I am just a straightforward person. If I hadn't risked offending everyone to say this today, you would have worn that cocked hat for life. She turned to me, her eyes full of mockery. Aubrey, out of all the men you could have chosen, why go for an old potbelly guy? What were you after? His age, his hygiene? Lynn crossed her arms, deliberately clearing her throat. Yeah, what did you tell me back then? Didn't that woman smell of that limited edition perfume Joey bought from abroad last month? Mia flinched, startled, and nodded frantically. Yes, it was that scent. That perfume is very distinctive. I couldn't have mistaken it in. Slapped her thigh, shaking with laughter. Hear that? Even the perfume scent is identical. Aubrey, you can't say that is a coincidence, can you? I quietly watched Lynn in her moment of triumph. The richer the fabricated details, the harder the slapback would be. I didn't refute her. I simply smiled faintly. The perfume scent is indeed excellent evidence, Lynn. Is that all you have? Lynn's eyes darted around, and to everyone's stunned surprise, she snatched up my bridal clutch. I really didn't want to be this cruel, but your audacity is just too much. She turned around, holding the clutch high. Don't blame me for being nosy, everyone. I just have clumsy hands. When I was helping Aubrey put away the red envelopes earlier, I accidentally felt something hard. She yanked open the zipper, turned the bag upside down, and shook it vigorously. Clatter, lipstick, potion, compact, and tissues scattered everywhere. Along with them fell an unopened box of pills and a crumpled ultrasound report, and even a 5-star hotel room keycard. Lynn quickly picked up the ultrasound report, holding it high. Everyone look early and trotting in pregnancy. 7 weeks. She then kicked the box of pills, her voice sharp and piercing, echoing through the hall. My peppercorn tablets. These are legitimate abortion pills. She clapped a hand over her mouth, fainting heartache. Aubrey, you call this an ovarian cyst. The cyst seems to have grown arms and legs. Oh. No, I spoke out of turn again. Everyone, please don't believe it. Maybe Aubrey found this pregnancy report on the road, and these pills were bought to feed stray dogs. Just a joke. Don't take it seriously, okay? The entire hall completely lost control, the uproar of angry shouts threatening to tear the roof off, disgusting with ironclad evidence. She still dares to stand there. This is an utter disgrace to the Davies family. Mrs. Davies' eyes rolled back. She fainted backward, caught by frantic hands. Kill her, Joey. Beat this vile hussy to death. Mrs. Davies shrieked hysterically. Joey's eyes were bloodshot, fixated on the abortion pills and room key card on the floor. He was trembling violently. Aubrey, you still dare to say you didn't go. You even carry abortion pills with you. You. Written by 1,000 men. Joey suddenly grabbed a heavy red wine bottle from the table and like a madman charged at me. Go to hell. My eyes flashed cold and I swiftly dodged. With a loud thud, the wine bottle smashed heavily on the steps, glass shards flying everywhere. Lynn stood to the side, watching the scene spiral out of control. A barely concealed look of wild glee playing on her lips. Ash away. Make a scene, Lynn. The heavier the hammer you drop now, the more satisfying it will be when I crush you into a pulp later. Lynn let out a fake scream and rushed to embrace Joey's arm. Joey, don't be impulsive. It is not worth killing someone over a woman like this. I turned her head, her eyes full of triumph as she looked at me. Aubrey, after all this, why are you still holding out? You made a mistake. You should admit it. If you count to 3 times to Joey and Mrs. Davies in front of everyone today, maybe they'll soften and forgive you. I am helping you. Get a lighter sentence. The surrounding guests pointed at me, cursing profusely. This woman is too cunning. If the maid of honor wasn't so straightforward, this cuckold hat would have been firmly on. I slowly walked forward, ignoring Joey's murderous gaze and the curses from the crowd. I walked up to Lynn and looked down at the abortion pills and room key hard on the ground. Lynn, you just said that these things fell out of my bridal clutch. Of course, and lifted her chin without hesitation, shamelessly. Hundreds of eyes saw it. Did I put them in there myself? I don't have that kind of time. Are you sure? I stared into her eyes, my voice chillingly cold. I swear. On my honor, they absolutely fell out of your bag. Lynn patted her chest confidently. Good, very good, I nodded. A chillingly cold smile playing on my lips. Since you've sworn on your honor, I raised my hand and snatched the spare microphone from the hand of the already terrified MC. Then I'll just coincidentally invite everyone to see something even more interesting. Lynn smiles, stiffens slightly. What? What do you mean? Don't try to be so mysterious. I ignored her. I took out my phone and in front of everyone dialed a number. Lynn tried to maintain her composure, yelling loudly. What new trick are you playing now? Do you think finding some random extra will clean up the ironclad evidence of your pregnancy and abortion? I sneered. I don't need to clean it up. Since you've set the stage, I might as well perform with you. The moment my words fell, bang. The heavy banquet hall doors were kicked open from the outside. The cursing abruptly ceased. Hundreds of people in the hall gasped simultaneously, and the wild grin on Lynn's face, which she hadn't managed to wipe away, froze into a deathly pale mask the moment she saw who was at the door. The heavy oak doors of the banquet hall groaned, slamming against the walls. With a sound like a thunderclap, dust cascaded from the intricate moldings above the entrance. The curses of the crowd died in their throats. The buzzing, suffocating noise of hundreds of people vanished, replaced by a suffocating, breathless silence. Standing in the doorway, chest heaving, was a fat, balding man in a tailored suit that was entirely ruined by the sheer volume of sweat pouring down his face. Beside him, in stark contrast, stood a woman of terrifying elegance. She wore a pristine emerald green pantsuit, her silver hair pulled back into a severe chignon. Two burly men in black suits flanked them, Lynn's manicured. Fingers let go of my arm. She staggered back, the heel of her stiletto catching on the edge of the stage. The blood drained from her face so fast she looked like a wax corpse. Her jaw trembled and the wild, triumphant light in her eyes shattered into pure, unadulterated terror. A Richard Lynn choked out, her voice barely a whisper, yet loud enough in the dead, silent hall. Mr. Sterling. Joey's voice cracked. The murderous rage on his face vanished, instantly replaced by shock and deep, sick of frantic panic. Mrs. Davies, who had just fainted, miraculously snapped awake in the arms of her relatives, her eyes bulging. The CEO of Sterling Enterprises, she gasped. The Davies family's entire supply chain depended on the Sterling contract. He was a god to them. I looked down at the shattered glass and spilled wine, then back up at Lynn, letting a slow, venomous smile spread across my face. Well, Lynn, I said, my voice echoing clearly through the mic. You kept talking about an old, pot-bellied man. I thought it was only polite to invite him to the wedding. The elegant woman in the emerald suit, Eleanor Sterling, stepped forward. The crowd instinctively parted for her as if she were Moses parting the Red Sea. She didn't look at Joey, nor did she acknowledge Mrs. Davies' frantic attempts to curtsy. Her eyes were locked onto Lynn like a hawk onto a field mouse. So Eleanor's voice was smooth, cultured and laced with absolute poison. This is the straight shooter, the girl who loves a good laugh. Richard Sterling stumbled forward, pulling a handkerchief from his pocket to mop his brow. He wouldn't even look at his wife. He just pointed a trembling, sausage-like finger at Lynn. You crazy, you told me you took care of it. You said if I gave you the $2 million, you'd leave. Town, the banquet hall erupted in a collective gasp. $2 million, someone whispered. Wait, so the old man was hers. Lynn shook her head frantically, backing up until her spine hit the projection screen behind the stage. No, Richard, what are you doing here? Aubrey set this up. She's trying to frame me. She's the one who is pregnant. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I simply bent down and picked up the crumpled ultrasound report Lynn had so gleefully tossed onto the floor. I smoothed it out. Against the podium. You tore off the top margin, Lynn, I said casually, tapping the frayed edge of the paper. Very clever. It removes the patient name and the date, but you're not very bright, are you? You forgot how modern medicine works. I held the paper up to the light. Every ultrasound printed at City General has a QR code at the bottom right corner for the patient's digital file. Lynn lunged at me, her fingers curled like claws. Give me that. Before she could even cross the distance, one of Ms. Sterling's bodyguards moved with terrifying speed, grabbing Lynn by the back of her designer collar and throwing her roughly to the ground. She landed, hard on her knees, crying out in pain. I calmly pulled my phone from my pocket, opened the scanner app, and held it over the ultrasound. A soft beep echoed. Through my microphone. AV team, I commanded, looking up at the lighting booth, switched the screen to my phone. Now the massive LED screen behind us, which had been displaying mine and Joey's pre-wedding photos, flickered. A second later, my phone screen was projected at 20 ft high. There it was. The City General Hospital patient portal. Patient name Lynn Harper. Age 25. Diagnosis: intrauterine pregnancy 7 weeks. Attending physician notes. Patient requested chemical termination. The silence in the hall was so absolute you could hear a pin drop. Then the whisper started growing into a vicious, mocking roar. My God, the maid of honor was the one who got knocked up by an old man, and she tried to pin it on the bride. What a psycho. Joey stood frozen, the broken neck of the wine bottle still dangling limply from his hand. He stared at the screen, then at Lynn, his brain struggling to process the monumental mistake he had just made. But Mia, the bridesmaid, stammered from the corner, her face pale. But I saw the khaki coat. I smelled the perfume. Aubrey, it had to be you. I turned to Mia, my eyes cold enough to freeze hell over. Mia, look closely at Lynn right now. Mia flinched but looked. I am 5'3" and a size 0, I stated, gesturing to my own frame. Lynn is 57 and a size 6. On the 14th of last month, it rained heavily. I lent Lynn my khaki trench coat because she claimed she had a job interview and didn't want to ruin her silk dress. Tell me, Mia, when you saw the woman in the mask and hat at the clinic, did the coat fit her, or was it bursting at the seams? Mia's eyes widened to the size of saucers. She clapped her hands over her mouth. The sleeves were too short. The shoulders were tight. I thought you had just gained weight and the perfume. I continued, taking a step toward the trembling Lynn. The limited edition scent Joey bought me. I kept it on my vanity. Strange how half the bottle disappeared the day after Lynn stayed over. But you don't have to take my word for it. I tap my phone screen again, switching to an app. I press play. The giant screen shifted to security footage from the camera I had installed in my apartment hallway after my reincarnation. A camera Lynn knew nothing about. The footage clearly showed Lynn sneaking out of my apartment on the morning of the 15th, wearing my khaki coat, my bucket hat, a medical mask, and clutching her stomach. As she walked past the camera, she reached into her bag and gave herself 3 heavy spritzes of my signature perfume. She layered it on thick, I said softly, the microphone catching every word because she wanted to be mistaken for me. She knew Mia was interning there. She needed a scapegoat just in case her sugar daddy's wife found out. Mrs. Sterling chuckled. It was a dry scraping sound that sent shivers down the spines of everyone present. And find out I did. Mrs. Sterling said, stepping gracefully at the stairs to the stage. She looked down at Lynn as if looking at a cockroach. My husband is a weak, pathetic man, but he is my weak, pathetic man. When I saw the withdrawal of $2 million from our joint account, I had him investigated. Imagine my surprise when my private investigator told me the little was trying to pass her indiscretions off onto a perfectly innocent bride. Eleanor Sterling turned to me, her sharp eyes softening just a fraction. I received your email last night, Aubrey, with a hotel key card number and the timeline. I must say, you are remarkably thorough. I nodded respectfully. I just believe in being a straight shooter, Mrs. Sterling. No filter. I threw Lynn's own words right back at her. Lynn sobbed, curling into a ball on the stage. The facade of the innocent joker entirely destroyed. And by the way, I said, kicking the hotel room key Cardland had planted. This belongs to the Starlight Suites, a hotel owned by the Sterling Corporation. I believe Mrs. Sterling has already pulled the hallway footage. Room 402, right, Richard? Richard flinched, wiping his sweaty neck. Why, yes, that was the room I rented for her. The ironclad evidence Lynn had tried to use to bury me had just become her own tombstone. It was a joke. Lynn suddenly screamed her voice cracking hysterically. She scrambled forward, trying to grab my dress, but I took a disgusted step back. Aubrey, I was just testing Joey. I was testing him for you to see if he really trusted you. You can't do this to me. A test. I laughed, the sound sharp and devoid of humor. You brought abortion pills, stole my clothes, extorted $2 million, and ruined my wedding. As a joke, well, Lynn, no one is laughing. I turned my back on her and looked at Joey. Joey was shaking violently. The realization of what he had done, the sheer catastrophic magnitude of his stupidity was washing over him. He dropped the broken glass. It shattered further against the marble. Aubrey, Joey whispered, taking a step toward me, his bloodshot eyes filled with sudden, desperate tears. Aubrey, I'm sorry. I was tricked. She manipulated me. You have to understand. The evidence looked so real, did it? I interrupted, my voice eerily calm. Joey, we have been together for 4 years. In 4 years, have I ever given you a single reason to doubt my loyalty? Joey swallowed hard, looking like a little boy who had just broken his mother's favorite vase. No, yet it took exactly 3 sentences from a jealous bridesmaid for you to believe I was, or I said, pointing at the shattered wine bottle. You didn't ask me for an explanation. You didn't investigate. You publicly humiliated me, let your mother call me a hussy, and then you picked up a weapon to smash my head in. I was angry, Joey pleaded, falling to his knees. I love you. I just lost my mind out of jealousy. That's not love, Joey. That's ownership, I said, staring down at him with nothing but pity and profound disgust. Aubrey. Please. Mrs. Davies suddenly pushed through the crowd, her previous arrogance completely eradicated. She realized that by offending me, she was standing on the wrong side of Mrs. Sterling. It's a misunderstanding. We are a respectable family. We just value purity. Joey loves you. Let's just continue the wedding. We'll kick this Harper girl out. A respectable family. Mrs. Sterling sneered, interjecting before I could even speak. Mrs. Davies, I've watched your son act like a rabid dog, ready to commit violence against an innocent woman based on hearsay. Sterling Enterprises does not do business with emotionally unstable, violent men. Consider our supply contract terminated. Mrs. Davies let out a strangled shriek and collapsed. For real this time, nobody moved to catch her. She hit the carpet with a dull thud. No, Mr. Sterling. Please, Joey begged, crawling toward the fat man. My company will go bankrupt. Richard Sterling scowled and kicked Joey's hand away. Take it up with my wife. I don't make the calls anymore. In the distance, the wail of police sirens began to echo down the street, growing louder by the second. Lynn froze, her tear-streaked face snapping toward the tall windows. Who called the cops? No, you can't, Aubrey. Tell them it's a misunderstanding. I didn't extort him. He gave it to me voluntarily. I called them, Mrs. Sterling said, checking her diamond-encrusted watch. Blackmail and extortion of $2 million is a serious felony, Miss Harper. I imagine you'll find the prison uniforms much less flattering than a bridesmaid dress. And I filed a report this morning for defamation, theft, and malicious destruction of property. I added, looking down at Lynn's terrified, trembling form, because unlike you, Lynn, I don't joke around when it comes to my life. The heavy banquet doors opened again, and half a dozen police officers strode in. The guests rapidly backed away, forming a wide circle around the stage. Lynn Harper, the lead officer asked, holding up a pair of handcuffs. Lynn screamed. It was a guttural, ugly sound. She thrashed and kicked as the officers pulled her off the stage, her perfectly styled hair falling into a rat's nest, her makeup smeared across her face like a tragic clown. She screamed my name. She screamed Joey's name. She cursed. Richard, I stood there perfectly still, watching her being dragged away. In my past life, that had been me. I had been the one on the ground weeping, begging anyone to believe me as the crowd spat on me. Now the weight that had been crushing my chest since the moment I woke up in this timeline finally evaporated. Aubrey, Joey sobbed, clutching the hem of my wedding dress. Don't leave me. I'll change. I swear to God I'll change. I'll make it up to you. I looked down at the man who had driven me to suicide in my previous life. Without a word, I reached up and unclasped the diamond necklace he had given me. I let it fall from my fingers, letting it bounce off his forehead and clatter onto the floor. We are done, Joey. Pay for your own damn banquet. I picked up my dress, stepping carefully over the broken glass, and walked down. The stairs, the guests, the same relatives who had just been screaming for my blood, parted respectfully. Some looked ashamed, unable to meet my eyes. Others stared in awe. My parents, who had been restrained by the malicious aunties earlier, broke free. My mother was crying openly, rushing forward to wrap her coat around my bare shoulders. Aubrey, my brave girl, my father whispered, kissing my forehead. Let's go home. Yes. I smiled, feeling a genuine, radiant warmth spread through my chest. Let's go home. As I walked out of the banquet hall, the panicked cries of the Davies family echoed behind me, mourning their lost wealth and ruined reputation. I pushed open the front doors of the hotel and stepped out into the bright, blinding sunlight. The air smelled like rain and fresh pavement. I took a deep breath, letting the clean air fill my lungs. The timid, gentle girl who allowed others to trample over her was dead and gone. If you liked the video, remember to like and comment which story you'd like to see next. See you tomorrow.